Duke's home, North Carolina, has a wide variety of fossils spanning evolutionary history. As one goes towards the Atlantic, fossil beds provide a chronological series of windows into the history of life. NC's westernmost fossils are also the oldest, bizarre invertebrates from the Ediacaran, around 550 million years ago. This fossil, called a pteridinium, is almost alien to us. It has 3 lobes in an unusual symmetry, attached to a center stalk. Apart from this, it has no identifiable organs. However, it is still an animal, perhaps a stationary suspension feeder, collecting nutrients from the water. Like many Ediacarian organisms, how it functioned and what group it belongs to is largely speculation. Moving east, we find the paleo-environment of the late Triassic. Over 350 million years later, organisms are far more recognizable now, with large 4-legged vertebrates walking upon the earth. These vertebrates diverge into 2 major groups: the synapsids, which have 1 pair of openings behind their eye, and the disapsids, which have 2. Though previously dominant, synapsids were superseded by a group of disapsids called archosaurs. The only archosaurs left are birds and crocodilians, but during the Triassic, they took many forms. Take Dromaeosuchus, for example, discovered a few miles from Duke. It is a small crocodilomorph, a relative of the crocodilians. With 4 upright limbs, it's more coyote than caiman, quickly chasing down prey. However, it was not quick enough, as it was found underneath this giant predator. Postosuchus, a more distant relative of the crocodilians, was top of the Triassic food chain. It was bipedal, which may have helped it hunt, perhaps allowing it to catch the swift Dromaeosuchus. Another group of archosaurs at this time had developed a similar body plan: the dinosaurs. While Triassic dinosaur bones have never been found in the state, footprints of a small meat-eater have. Like Postosuchus, this carnivore was efficient on its 2 legs. But these 2 archosaurs are not as closely related as they look. Dinosaurs are closer to birds than to crocodilians and Postosuchus. Instead of sharing a bipedal ancestor, the 2 lineages developed a trait simultaneously in the same environment. This is called parallel evolution. When one trait develops independently in 2 groups at different times, it is called convergent evolution. This is Rudiodon, a reptile called a phytosaur. Despite looking and acting like a crocodilian, they are not closely related. With Triassic crocodilomorphs looking more like Dromaeosuchus, it would take a while until their appearance would converge with Rudiodon. As we move again eastward, we find fossils from the late Cretaceous. By then, crocodilomorphs had produced body plans like the phytosaurs, demonstrating convergent evolution. A noteworthy example was Deinosuchus, a crocodilian that reached 10 meters in length, dwarfing many of the dinosaurs that lived alongside. This was especially true in North Carolina. In the late Cretaceous, North America had been split by a shallow sea, forming the western Laramidia and eastern Appalachia continents. Laramidia was home to the tyrannosaurids, including the mighty T-Rex. However, the sea formed before they evolved from the main group, the Tyrannosauroids. This resulted in Appalachia having smaller, more primitive tyrannosaurs. Tyrannosauroid teeth are found in North Carolina, and we can reconstruct their body based on fossils from other states. Like the Triassic dinosaur, it was a predator, feeding on herbivorous dinosaurs called hadrosaurs. Cretaceous NC was also home to a group of meat-eating dinosaurs called dromaeosaurs, better known as raptors. Unlike their movie monster counterparts, real raptors were some of the closest relatives to birds, sharing many features with them. They are not, however, birds' direct ancestors, but share a common ancestor with them close on the family tree. As we reach the coast, we find material from the late Cenozoic. We've made another major skip, so here's what you missed. With all dinosaurs extinct except for birds, the synapsids dominate once again in the form of mammals, which diversified in the Cenozoic to many shapes and sizes. In North Carolina, mammals such as mammoths, mastodons, and ground sloths used to roam, as well as tapirs and pre-colonial horses. Mammals returned to the ocean as well, with fossils of whales and walruses being found in the state. But they were far from dominant there, for Carcharocal's megalodon, a supermassive shark that hunted whales, patrolled the Carolinian coast. While sharks had been around for millennia, none had ever reached this size. Megalodon was not the only giant shark of prehistory, though. Also found in the state is its older relative, Carcharocal's auriculatus. While the teeth look similar, Megalodon has lost its cusps on the side of the tooth, perhaps due to a change in feeding style as they increased in size. Life for a whale was certainly unpleasant when these sharks were around. Today, North Carolina looks like itself 10,000 years ago in some ways, and different in others. Many animals that used to live alongside megalodon mammoths and giant sloths now live in their absence, as various factors have driven megafauna to extinction. When the last population of a species fizzles out, it takes a lot with it, most of which is irreplaceable on a generational scale. Thankfully, they do leave some things behind, things that we can study to understand more about life today and tomorrow.